Oh, it's like story time, isn't it? Under the story tree. It's cold and misty this morning, and it's early, and there are people out jogging. What I find particularly horrible is people riding along in this lovely countryside, in the peace and the quiet, on their bicycles, with a radio blaring. I just can't understand that. When you've been given this, the twitterings of birds, and the peace and the quiet and nature, it's so lovely. But we're active animals. We seem to be constantly needing action, and we're very active. That's why people go out and jog, keep themselves fit. It's good. I'm not against jogging or riding bikes or anything. Activity is good, but one of the things we do a lot less is to spend time being quiet. We have this idea of idyllic moments on a bench in front of the window in the summer with a book, or in the autumn with a book and some candlelight. And we do that for 5 minutes and then you get bored. But nowadays you do it for 5 seconds in order to take a photograph and put it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Me relaxing. But genuine time of inactivity, just sitting and focusing or defocusing on just being, would be a horror to lots of people. And you would think, and it is to an extent, for the first few minutes maybe, that it would be boring. Beginning meditation was sometimes hard, and I've done it on and off for years, but when I started it in earnest, it was difficult to sit for 10 minutes, not just because of mind chatter, but the action of, or the inaction of sitting, just bored, waiting for something to happen kind of thing. Now, luckily, I'm in a position where I can sit and quite quickly start to just enjoy the sensation of sitting. Things keep cropping up, like uncomfortable positions, but now I just move. If I realise I'm in an uncomfortable position, I just move. There was a time when I thought I wasn't allowed to move from one position to another. You are. This is not affecting your consciousness. You're just shifting your body. But after a while, even that becomes irrelevant, and you're able to just sit and enjoy the moment. And you have a sort of disconnect from your body to an extent. The longer you sit, it becomes, the less stimulus comes in, the more of a disconnect you have to your physical presence. And so you're left with only the inner presence. And sometimes I'll sit with the intention of sitting for half an hour, but I'll end up sitting for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's not boredom, it's far from boredom. And when I've talked to people sometimes about meditation, they'll say, oh well, I can sit, I have no problem sitting for hours. And that might be true. Or I've had somebody say, I can sit for hours, I do it on holiday, I lie on a beach. It's not the same thing though, is it? You're sitting with an intention and being constantly present. It's almost an activity in itself. It's work to an extent. as opposed to lying on a beach in summer, dropping off, waking up, dropping off, waking up. There is a difference in brain state. We all are inactive for long periods of time and can lie around quite happily for hours on end when we sleep. But then we're in a different brain state, a different state of consciousness. And in the moment that you're in deep sleep, for example, you're not. There is no activity, and so you have no awareness of being present. But there is a difference between that kind of inactivity and the inactivity of sitting and intentionally being present. It sounds like there's some kind of tension there, but there isn't. It's tension free, but constant refocusing on being. Every time the mind wanders, you bring your attention back and stay in attention. So it is a kind of activity, but it's far from boring. It's useful. Some people use it as a creative state. They'll keep a pad next to them and write things down because your mind fills up with things. Sometimes you get ideas for songs, pictures, if you're a creative person. Ideas for all kinds of things. I tend to see those as tricks of the mind to divert you from awareness, so I don't write them down. If they're worthwhile, I'll remember them. I think McCartney said that about songs when somebody said, how did you write songs down if you couldn't write the music down? And McCartney said, well, we didn't have tape recorders and things, so we just write it down and hum the tune. And if you remember the tune and could sing it to John later, then it was a tune worth remembering. And if it stuck in my mind, then it would stick in somebody else's mind. That's how we judged how good a song was. And he probably said, several times during that as well. I just keep it in my head, and tell it to John later, And John would say, it's good, Paul, it's good. If an idea is worthwhile, then it'll stay. And if it's not, then it'll go. And sometimes it's good also to just let ideas go. It's good to learn to let go. That's part of sitting as well, to let go. You have to let go of things that are around you. I've got to do this, I've got to write there, I've got to do an email, ring him, do whatever. All those things for that hour, 20 minutes, whatever you're doing, you have to let go. And so it has its uses in many ways, and lots of that you can take into everyday life. There'll be situations where you start to get flustered, losing the overview and feeling the turmoil in yourself or in a situation, and you feel yourself dragged unwittingly and unwillingly into that turmoil, and you can decide sometimes to let that go. So it's a generally useful tool for everyday life to deal with too much activity, and a way of confronting yourself, because also negative thoughts, bad thoughts, memories, mind chatter will arise, and some people can't take meditation because of the mind chatter, and their mind might be full of horrible episodes and memories that they don't want to think about or remember and be constantly reminded of. And that comes up during meditation. Sometimes it's useful to explore that, and sometimes it's useful to learn to leave it alone. So some people are right when they say meditation is not for everybody, maybe, and when they say that meditation can also have negative effects. There's been a big craze for mindfulness meditation, and there have been some warnings that it's not meant for some people or not made for some people because of this dealing with the mind chatter, and there might be some chatter that's particularly nasty in some cases, and people will suffer anxiety and fear responses through meditation because you're confronting memories and things that are welling up from within you. And until you've learned to either quell them or allow them to be, or to investigate them from a detached point of view, they can be overwhelming. So slowly, slowly catch your monkey. Take your meditation slowly. Start with small bouts. Start by controlling mind chatter, or start by focusing on awareness and observing mind chatter as a thing or a collection of things without being involved. Would be my advice, but there's plenty of other advice. But if you're really bad at meditation, at that much focus, then maybe an autumn evening without a book, just simply sitting and allowing things to come and go through your mind would be a good idea, for more than 2 minutes, and not for Instagram. It's kind of what I do here. I'm actually on my walk, but I stop at the thinking tree, and sometimes the things I think and film are spontaneous, and sometimes they're things that have been going through my mind anyway, and this is an opportunity to just sketch them out like in a sketchbook. The rest of my trip is in silence and in awareness. So give it a bash and don't see it as a torture, but see it as an invitation to another place. You know,